Hey guys, it's so good to, well, kind of virtually see you. I miss you all so much. So I wanted to make a video because a lot of you told me the videos I sent on factoring were not very helpful. So I wanted to try to make my own, kind of clarify some things and make sure we're all good with it. So I kind of want to follow our normal structure where I'm going to start with the do now. That's going to be helpful, and then we'll move into factoring. So please, I'm going to show you the do now question in just a second. Please do me a favor, once I show it to you, please pause this video to try it on your own, and then we'll talk through it together. All right, here you go. Here's your do now. What I'd like you to do is to please multiply this binomial, or these two binomials. So please try to multiply these. All right, so this is something that we covered, I can't remember if it was last cycle or this cycle, but if you remember the idea, we're going to multiply these. So the idea is I'm going to take this first term, which remember, this is technically a 1 here and 1 for the exponent, right? So what I'm going to do is multiply this, distribute it to both things in the back parenthesis, right? So I'm going to take 1x to the first power times another 1x to the first power. Remember, multiply your coefficients, so 1 times 1 is just 1. You don't really need the 1 though, right? And then with our exponents, what we're going to do is add them. So x1 and x1 gives me x squared. Cool. Now we're going to take 1x times 6. So 1 times 6 just straight up is 6. Keep your x. All right, we're done with this. All right, remember, now we're going to take this back number, the 4. Remember, it's not just 4, but it's a negative 4. And we're going to distribute it to both things in the back, right? So we're going to take negative 4 times 1x. Well, negative 4 times 1 is just negative 4. Keep your x. And negative 4 times 6 is a negative 24. All right, cool. Now remember, we're going to find our like terms. Well, I have a like term here and here. So 1x squared is just chilling. We don't need the square, right? And then negative 6 plus, or positive 6 minus 4, positive 2x minus 24 is just chilling, right? All right, we multiplied these two binomials. We are done. Okay, so the question came up about how do we factor? So if you remember from when we factored the greatest common factor and our polynomials, all factoring is just taking something, whether it's an equation, expression, whatever, and breaking it into smaller parts that we can work with. We may simplify it, we may solve it, there's lots of things we can do, but we're just taking this and we're breaking it into smaller parts, right? So we talk about this idea of factoring, and we're going to really focus on factoring quadratics. Remember what that means is my biggest exponent is 2, right? So we're going to really focus on factoring these types of things. So when I say factor this, what I mean is we're going to start here and go back to here. So we're going to undo kind of what we did with multiplication. All right, so when we're looking at this, I'm going to start with this problem, and we're going to see how do we get back to here. All right, so let's start with that answer that we finished with. So we had x squared, I'm going to put this up in just 1 second, plus 2x minus 24. Okay, so we're going to start with this, and we're going to say, how do we get back to here? So if we're talking about quadratics, remember, meaning the biggest exponent is 2, our factored form, like 99% of the time, looks the same way. So we're going to have 2 parentheses. We're going to have some x term in the front of both of them. They may have a coefficient. The coefficient may be 1, right? And then in the back, we're going to have 2 numbers. So, and then the signs could be plus or minus, and we're going to deal with that in a second. So if you think about that do now, how did we get this term? Well, what we did was we multiplied our first 2 terms together. So we have to think about, well, how can I break up 1x squared? So first start with the coefficient. What are the factors of 1? Well, just 1 and 1, right? That's the only 2 numbers I can multiply together to get 1. So cool, 1's going to be the coefficient. What's the only way I can break up x squared? Just 1x and 1x. So this is the nice thing. If we don't see a coefficient here, meaning it's 1, it's really easy to break this up. It's just x and x. Again, we don't need the 1s, but if you want to put them there, that's fine. Okay, how do we figure out what number goes here? Well, this is where this back number comes into play. What we're going to figure out is how can I get to 24? What 2 numbers will multiply to it? So don't worry about the sign right now. That's going to come into play in just a second. So think about what we did when we factored non-perfect, when we were looking at non-perfect squares. We took our number and we said, what are all the factors of it? So think about this. So 1 will go into 24, 24 times. 2 will go into 24, 12 times. 3 will go into 24, 8 times. And 4 will go into 24, 6 times. 5 won't go in evenly. We've already got 6. Okay, so cool. Here are all your factors of 24. Well, how do we know which set to pick? Well, this is where our middle number is going to come into play. So what we want is two numbers that we multiply and give us a negative 24, but when we combine them, we get a positive 2. So let's think about this. I want a negative 24. Well, the only way I can multiply two numbers together to make a negative is if one's positive and one's negative, right? Cool. So that means one of these numbers is going to be positive, the other one's going to be a negative, meaning when I combine them, I'm actually going to subtract them, right? And take the sign of the bigger number. All right, so let's think about this. Which set of numbers, when I subtract them, will give me this 2? Well, 1 minus 20, or 24 minus 1 is 23. Nope. 12 minus 2 is 10. 8 minus 3 is 5. Nope. But 6 minus 4 does give me 2. That's how I know which set of numbers I'm going to pick. So now I have to deal with the signs. I know I'm going to use 4 and I'm going to use 6. What I want is, how can I make the signs so it gives me a positive 2? Well, I'm subtracting to get 2, right? So the idea is the bigger number has to have this sign. So that means 6 is positive and the 4 is negative. Because when I have negative 4, positive 6, I get positive 2, which is what I want. So here's the other nice thing. If the coefficient's 1 up here, it doesn't matter which way you put these numbers. You could put the negative 4 here and the positive 6 here, positive 6 here, 4 here. It doesn't matter if the coefficient's 1. So let's just put negative 4 here and positive 6 here. Okay, cool. We factored, right? This is exactly what we should be having. And if we're not sure, you can multiply this back out like we did in the do now to make sure we end up here. Okay, so I took a lot of time explaining that to hopefully make sure that we're cool on that. So what I want to do is try one without kind of all the explaining that I just did. All right, so let's try this one. We've got x squared minus 4x minus 21. Okay, cool, I see a quadratic. So what I know is I'm going to have two parentheses. Since I don't see a coefficient here, meaning it's 1, I know I'm just going to break this up, x and x. So that's what goes in the front. The back number, I need two numbers that are going to multiply to 21. Again, don't worry about the sign right now. Well, the factors of 21 are 1 and 21, 3 and 7, and that's it, right? Those are all the factors. So again, I want you to think about how can we get to this middle number of 4. Again, it's a negative 21. That means these signs have to be different between the two numbers, right? So that means I'm going to be subtracting again. So if I think about this, which set of numbers will give me this 4? Well, 21 minus 1 is 20. But 7 minus 3 is 4. Okay, cool. That's the set we're going to use. So I've got 3 and I've got 7. I want to know how can I arrange the signs so I'm going to get a negative 4. Okay, so here's the deal. I want to get a negative 4. I know one's positive, one's negative. That means the bigger number needs this negative sign. So 7's getting the negative, 3 is getting the positive. And again, since I just have x and x, I don't have any coefficients, it doesn't matter the order you put these in, right? So I'm just going to go plus 3 here, minus 7 here. And then that's it. That is how you factor. Okay, I want to give you one as a you try. Again, after I show you this, please pause the video and try it on your own, and then we'll talk about it together. All right, so here is your you try. Please try to factor this. All right, so here's the deal. Two parentheses because it's a quadratic. Again, no coefficient, x and x. Okay, I need to think about the numbers that will multiply to 6. So I've got 1 and 6, 2 and 3, and that's it. All right, so now this time I want a positive 6. So that means my signs of the two are both going to be positive or they're both going to be negative, because if I multiply a positive 1 and a positive 6, I get positive 6. Same way if I multiply a negative 1 and a negative 6, I'm going to get a positive 6. So my signs are going to be the same. Well, what that means is I'm going to be adding my two numbers now, right? Because I have same signs. So here's the deal. I need a set of numbers that's going to add up to 5. Well, I have 1 and 6. Those add up to 7. No, but 2 and 3 do add up to 5. So I'm going to say, cool, I've got 2, I've got 3. I need to equal a positive 5. So how can I do that? Well, again, they're going to be same signs. It needs to be positive. That means both of these will be positive. Cool. Put them in your parentheses. Oh, sorry. That's a 3. I promise that's a 3. Okay, cool. This is the last one that I have for you. Okay, so we're going to look at this. Same idea, right? Quadratic, 2 parentheses. Again, no coefficient, meaning it's a 1. So cool. Break it up, x and x. X, x. Again, I need two numbers that are going to multiply to 10. So here are the factors. 1 and 10, 10, and 2 and 5. Those are all the factors. Okay, this time I need same signs again. So that means they're either both positives or both negatives. Again, since it's the same sign, that means I need to add the numbers and make them equal to this 7. Well, 1 and 10 give me 11. No, 2 and 5, that does give me 7. Cool. So I'm going to be using 2 and 5. But this time what I need to make is a negative 7. So I'm going to have same signs. So my question is, what sign should go here? Well, if I need a negative 7, I need to make these both negative, right? Awesome. So what I'm going to do is say, cool, I'm using negative 2, negative 5, put them in here. Okay, and that's it. We're done. All right, darlings. I hope this was helpful, a little bit more than what I sent you. If not, I'm going to be offering you a chance to join a Google Hangout so that way we can talk in person. But I hope you're all doing well, and I can't wait to see you again. Love you.